Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here doing a review for Truth or Dare. This, of course, will have spoilers in it, as the title suggests, but of course, when I get to the spoilers, I'll let you guys know. Starting off with my non spoiler little segment here. I don't know, this is like one of those in between things where it's like, I enjoyed the movie, but I don't know if I could, like, totally recommend it. Like, I think they did a good job with it. Of course, it's Blumhouse, whereas, like, sometimes they have movies where I'm like, well, okay, yeah, that definitely did a thing. I'm pretty sure Get Out was Blumhouse, but also like Lights Out, I really enjoyed that movie. So it's like Blumhouse is this weird thing where it's like, they give people a chance. It's like I want to make a movie. It's like, okay, here's $10, make a movie, and that's how Blumhouse works. And typically, it's like that weird middle ground where it's like sometimes it works out really really well. Sometimes it's like this movie where it's like it works out because there's definitely stuff I like in the writing for this movie that like the story of it I really enjoy like how it was written, and then there's other stuff where I'm just like there's also elements of this that's just like cheap. I could just feel the cheapness, and then it didn't help that I had my black movie experience, and I haven't had one in a minute. That's just everybody just laughing. Like the movie ended, the two people next to me was a couple. They were completely asleep. Hilarious. Like I didn't even look at them because I saw them out of the corner of my eye, and I started laughing. I was like, I can't even look over because I laughed too hard, and the lights like just came on, and I was just like, I can't look over and laugh at them because I'll laugh like crazy. So I left them too. I left them. I asked my date out. She said, just leave them. And I was like, all right, well, we're just gonna go. But the movie itself was good. It was just it's in that weird middle ground where it's like I said, I enjoyed it. Um, and there's some good concepts to it because I didn't even really know about this movie until I was going to see it, and it was like, all right, well, let me check out the trailer. And I was like, okay, the trailer seems cool. It's a very simple concept. It's truth or dare. You have to do it or you die. And I think it was handled pretty well, and they did some interesting stuff with it. But like I said, it's just so right down the lane. I would say this is probably one of those things where like see it as cheap as you can, but it's worth seeing at the movies. Like it's one of those things where it's like I can still say it deserves to be seen at the movies because you have a good time with it. There's definitely some moments where it's funny. Um, you know, it's hard. It was harder not to for it to be funnier with everybody was just chuckling and stuff. I was just like, I'm like a really snobby moviegoer. I was like, I just wanted to be quiet so I can enjoy it. And just people laughing and stuff. There, people were laughing at stuff that I didn't even think was funny at all. Like people kept laughing at the smiling face thing. And I was like, man, we've seen this the whole movie. Why are people still laughing in the theater? It was just like I was starting to get annoyed at some point. So it's just black movie theater. Sometimes you just go and it's just like it is what it is. It is. It's unfortunately everything you always see on TV, and it's just like crap. Like dang, it's always like this. But that's just how it is. How it is sometimes. But the movie itself, uh, I feel like there's not much I can really say outside of like it's kind of right down the middle. I like the way the story was handled. For the most part, there are just some specific like character elements that I didn't enjoy because it was like some of the stuff was just like there's one character in particular that I felt was like the cliche character, but everyone else I thought was okay. Um, but yeah, it was just an interesting movie, so I still say see it. Maybe see it as cheap as you possibly can, but it's still one of those movies where it's like it's not like you'll lose out if you see it in a theater. So that's the best I can give is like it's legitimately right down the middle, like a rental sort of deal. So that's pretty much it for the non spoiler segment. So if you haven't seen the movie, go see it or don't. I will spoil it for you. But like I said, and that's the one thing that kind of kicks it up. I do like the story, so that's why I recommend seeing it. Is just because some of the stuff that happens is not super generic. Like it does not always play out like you might expect. So I kind of like it for that. Particularly when it gets towards the end of the movie, there's some stuff that happens where I'm like, I really like how that played out because it wasn't super obvious. So go see it or don't. I'm about to go into my spoilers. Um, as far as spoilers, I'm gonna start with like I mentioned the generic thing. It was the one dude who was the boyfriend, the doctor guy. He was like the one character that I thought was like super generic and stuff. He was like the super douchey character, but I did laugh when when the one dude died, the first guy died, and he was like tough break. That was super messed up, but he was like, well, it's a pool joke. And I thought that was funny because he was like such a terrible human being to say that, but I also thought it was funny. The guy who did the pool thing where he was gonna do the dare to show his penis and everything, he was funny. Like that was just a silly character. Like that was the part about the movie where it was just like they clearly wrote stuff that was just meant to be funny, but it's also like a horror movie a little bit. But that wasn't the closer towards the beginning. But he's just like when he was about to fight the dude at the bar, he was like, I can't say no to shots, and that's why I'm gonna do that because you said it, and that's it. And it was just like that was super funny. So it was like clearly they wrote some stuff in there that was strictly meant to be funny, and that was that character specifically, and then kind of the douchey doctor guy as well. But everyone else I thought was interesting. They had the one, the girlfriend of him who was clearly an alcoholic. Like she got drunk and then they're like, all right, go to sleep. And then she got up and was like, oh man, I need a drink. And she went into her clothes and I was just like, that's a true alcoholic. Like she had the bottle like in her, her drawer and everything. Um, so I was like, okay, they have, the different characters and everything. And you have, I honestly, like of all the actors, I only know Lucy Hale. And that's because I like Pretty Little Liars. Um, so like her character, she started off as like the righteous character and everything, and as things go on, she kind of has to become more selfish in order to survive. And like even her friend says that, which they kind of do a lot of foreshadowing in this movie. But like they start off with the truth or dare questions, like all of them kind of relate to how the characters end up dying and stuff like that. Like the guy who's selling prescriptions to kids and stuff, and that's kind of what gets him killed. Where it's like, oh, stop selling the kids and everything like that. Undergrads or whatever. So I was like, okay, stop selling to them. And then of course it comes up as a part of the game, like how long have you been selling prescriptions and stuff like that. And so of course he denies it, and that's what gets him killed. And then they have like the big question, which kind of comes back at the very end. Olivia, that was her name, Lucy Hale's character, whereas like, would you save all of us or would you save the entire population of Mexico? Like if aliens came down, like the like 8 of us or whatever that are in this room, we would all die, but all of Mexico will live, or would you let all of Mexico die and we live? And in the end, she kind of flipped it where it was like down to her and her friend, and she thought, and that's what I liked about the writing, where it was like they get through this whole process, a bunch of people keep getting killed. The one buddy who had to like have his dad like beg for mercy, I was kind of surprised that was how he died, where the other cop shot him. I was like, oh, okay, I didn't expect that to happen. I thought it would be like, it just wouldn't work, and then he'd have to just give up because, they were going to threaten it or something like that. I didn't think he would just naturally get shot without any warning. So that's kind of why I like that. So that was cool. And then they get to the end where it's like, all right, we found the guy, Sam/Carter. We take him back to the mission and we go through the whole process. And the one thing that really bugged me is that characters, I felt, they start to learn the game, right? And I was like, I feel like they're kind of rushing through sometimes, because we see it in the very beginning with Olivia, where she's ignoring it. Whereas like, it starts off simple because it's her turn. So it starts off as just, oh, it's truth or dare. And then it gets to the library scene and she realizes that wasn't actually happening. And then it gets to, I want to say the guy's name was Lucas, where he sees it, spray painted on the wall, and then it like etches itself into his arm, and then it goes away because none of it's real. They say that in the very beginning, and I'm like, none of them seem to fight in any way, shape, or form throughout this movie, just not answering, because all it does is just trap them and say, hey, truth or dare. Like, it literally does nothing. It's like you have to play the game, but there was never a point where somebody just didn't do it and then they died. It was just like they were trapped seeing stuff that wasn't real, and I was like, nobody seems to fight that. Even if it was only like the 2 characters that realized none of it was actually happening, even they don't fight it. Like at the very end of the movie, which also he was wrong, by the way, because he was like, I had to pick dare because the next person would have to pick truth, which was totally wrong. But and I guess, and that's interesting, I guess he didn't know that because he assumed Olivia chose truth because she had to tell her friend, but she chose dare, so he didn't know that. But I was like, oh, he's wrong, but it didn't dawn on me until like just now. That's why he thought the next person would have to pick dare, because he assumed Olivia chose truth. But still, it was just like, you're at the end. This is the end game. Just like wait for this dude to read some stuff. Like, this is fake. Just hold on a second and let this dude cut his tongue out. And I was just like, he just rushed right into that. It was just like, okay, dare. And I was just like, why didn't he just wait? Like the whole time, I just kept thinking that through the whole movie. Like, they just don't wait. They're just like, I have my turn. I'm done. Nobody communicates as well. It's just like, I had my turn. Oh, thanks for letting us know. Oh, well, he's dead now. Thanks. It's cool. Like that happened like 2 or 3 times where it was like, yeah, my turn's over already. Cool. Like communication. Like there's just some stuff in there where I was just like, they don't communicate like they should. Like they go through their turn and then it's just like, whatever. Even after the two truths and a dare thing, when they realize that, that's actually when it kicks up even more, where they don't communicate as much because they go through the dare thing where it's like, oh, they have to sleep together, and so Marky, she leaves off, and then like I said, she does her turn and she doesn't say anything, until like she finally gets in touch, and then that was obviously it was during the daytime. Like we see that happened at night, and she did her truth, and then she didn't call anybody till the next day, and I'm just like, they suck. Like no wonder everybody died. Like they just kept waiting to say, yeah, I already did my turn. Like that happened like 3 times in a row, I think, when it's just like, yep, I already did my turn. Like, oh, you did? I guess that means it's the next person that just left, and we didn't know that because you waited 12 hours to tell us. So it was like little stuff like that kept bugging me, where I'm like, they aren't trying to really fight the game. Like it was very movie based, where it was just like they just kept doing it. I'm like, they aren't even trying to fight it. Like Olivia knew from the very beginning, where it's like, it's not real. Like what we're seeing isn't actually happening, but we do have to play the game or we die. But there was never a point where they tested that to see how far it would actually go. It was just that, it just didn't happen. It was like either they did the dare, or they accepted to say truth or dare and they didn't do it and then they died, or they just naturally did it. It was like there was no in between, where it's like, well, let's see how far this actually goes before the illusions become real. Like I think the only time it was actually real was when it was like the homeless guy attacking Olivia, like when he like broke into the house and he was like actually choking her, and when Lucas and Olivia were having sex and he was actually being choked and he had to answer. Other than that, it was all fake. Like everything else was just illusions and stuff, and there was like no one was testing it in any way, shape, or form. So it was definitely interesting. But that was like my big issue with it. I was like, why did they just didn't try? Like they weren't holding out for any amount of time whatsoever to just see if they could push it into the last minute. Especially like I said, you're at the end game and he instantly answered the question like, I gotta go. And I was like, that took 2 seconds, and he just instantly went for it. And I was just like, he didn't even try to wait to see how this could possibly play out or anything. It was just kind of funny. I'm like, they just kept going through it. Like, we got to keep playing, so let's just instantly go through. I'm not going to tell you I did it, but oh, it's your turn now, and you're dead. And it's just like, what the communication? Like, there's just that little bit that kept bugging me through the whole movie, or at least in like the last third, I would say that's when that really started to kick in, where I'm like, they just stopped communicating, even though it was like a lot of stuff, especially with Olivia's character, where it seemed like she was just, in the end, she kind of just seemed like the crappy person. Like, it was all the stuff that happened with Marky's dad and stuff like that, which, that was a good thing to do, to not say that, because it was like, it's a extra crappy element on top of your dad killed himself. He kind of came on to your underage friend. And then she also said, like, she'd be better off if you were dead, which, of course, you say that thing and you don't really know. So it just kind of came off as Olivia being a crappy person, but she wasn't. But, it goes through, it gets to the end, and that's when things kind of switched up, where it was like, okay, this is, it doesn't get solved. It's not like I was expecting. They have the one dude being like, all right, I'm going to cut my tongue out because it's going to end the game. That doesn't happen because Lucas didn't do his dare, and so he's able to like throw them off. He stabs the one dude and then he kills himself, or whatever the creature's name. It had a cool name, but the creature like kills the dude to keep the game going and then kills the guy. And so then it's like, all right, well, the demon throws itself in and it's like, all right, truth or dare. And it's like, all right, well, truth. And it's like, how do we get out of the game? And then there wasn't a good answer. It was just like, you can't. Like, the game keeps on keeping on until you die, or until every player dies. And I was like, oh, well, that's not what I expected. That's supposed to be like the cool genius idea, heroic ending. And then it's just like, no, you're screwed. Everybody's going to die now. And then that's when Olivia comes up with the idea, which ties back to the very beginning of, do you choose the people you're close to or the entire population? Or in this case, her YouTube subscribers, which that sucks. It sucks for you. To be subscribed to that person that would just be like, sorry, I want to live. I'm just going to wait for you guys to get screwed over, all 4,000 or however many she had. Gonna let that circle around till it gets back to me. And then it's 2 truths and a dare, which no one knew that part either, because I don't think she explained that in that little ending video. But yeah, that was funny. I was just like, oh wow, you kind of suck for that one. But ultimately, she chose herself and her friend over everyone else, even though it would have just ended, and who knows how many other lives she ended because of that. But it gets to that personal thing where you have the concept, the moral dilemma, the concept versus the reality of it, where it's like you could choose us over all these people, or you could literally, when there's even less people, choose yourself and one other person over 4,000 people, something like that. And she chose to just be like, whoever watches this, now you're in the game, and hopefully you make it through. And that's pretty much it. So it's like, all right, that was a pretty cool way to end it, and definitely not the happy ending where it's like, oh, it's problem solved and they beat the demon and all that stuff. It's like, no, you're kind of screwed. The game will only end when all those people are dead. No one else. Well, I think she said it in the video where it's like, this is the only place you can come to actually add people to the game. So unless a bunch of people travel there to actually do it, it's just gonna eventually end. Unless she goes back and makes like another video or whatever. Where I guess technically if more people watch it, they'll instantly be included or whatever. I don't know. I'm going into the details, but interesting ending. I like the way it ended. And that was just one of the things. That's what made me enjoy the movie. Like, cause throughout they had some stuff that was pretty cool. Like, the guy who got shot in front of his dad, he had his truth where he had to come out to his father, but it was like one of the good moments where it was like, I actually feel kind of great. Like, I stood up to my father and I revealed this huge secret, and I kind of feel awesome about it. And then, it goes through the process where unfortunately he still ends up dying. Like, no one really, like that would have been the one cool thing. Like, if he lived, I think that would have been kind of cool. I guess if all three of them did, they were like the three people, kind of have to have the main character and their best friend. But he was the one person where it seemed like it was working better for him. But of course, kind of everybody does have to die at some point. So that's just how it went. But I like that one. That was one of the parts where it was like, okay, that's cool. He had to tell that really difficult truth, but it worked. Like, it worked that it was in a good way for him. And then when he had to do the dare, that's when, it was a bit too tough. It just didn't play out. And he could have done it. And his dad was just like, I understand. And, he was saying everything except for just, I'm begging for my life. And then, of course, it just went a little too far. And that's all there was to it. And he died. So it's just like, well, that sucks. The girl who got drunk and fell off the roof, she survived for like 4 minutes. And then the girl from the last game, or, who set off, it was in the beginning of the movie, she ends up killing her instead of Olivia. And it's just like, oh, well, that failed, even though she was trying. It failed, so she had to turn the gun on herself, and it was just like, dang, that sucks. So they still ended up killing the one girl. It's like, that kind of blows for her. That just sucks. But interesting movie. That's why I said it's like, it's right down the middle. There's some parts where I'm just like, I really like that because it was kind of flipped on its head. Is not what I thought was going to happen. Definitely the ending is one of those moments for sure where, once again, with all the foreshadowing, like, picking the people closest to you versus just random strangers, all the little stuff they did with the questions about the drugs and, the one guy being gay and like who he would be with and, coming out to his dad, all that other stuff, like how they kind of foreshadowed a lot of those concepts and, the little love triangle stuff that they had and all that stuff was being foreshadowed in that very first game. And then it just kept going. It was just like, yeah, this sucks for these people. But some of the stuff was flipped on its head. It was definitely entertaining. Some stuff was just kind of Blumhouse. It just felt, a little bit cheaper, but going through it, still a decent movie. It's just like one of those things where it's like, okay, I really appreciate the writing, and I guess for the most part, yeah, I appreciate the acting. Despite, like I said, some of the generic moments that they had, enjoyed it. Thought it was a good movie. All in all, like I said, just like it's that right down the middle thing. Like, I wouldn't watch this again, but it was like, all right, I can appreciate it. It was a decent story for sure. The writing I thought was decent, and some nice little twists, twists and turns here and there. So it was cool. I thought it was cool. But would love to know what you guys thought about it and just the craziness of it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts about it. As far as the way the movie ended, I would love to know how you guys felt about that and kind of how they did the foreshadowing and stuff, like that moral dilemma of choosing the people you know versus the people you don't. So I would love to know what you guys thought about the way it ended and some of the other little things that were kind of flipped on their head, like them, her having like the genius idea to be like, well, I'm adding you. She adds the actual demon to the game as well, which I guess an even smarter idea would have just been, I dare you to end the game without killing us. That would have been even smarter. Unfortunate though. Well, I guess she couldn't have dared it unless it said, truth or dare. So it has to ask, or it has to say what it wants to do. But I thought it was interesting. It was like, oh, well, that just sucks for you guys. So then it sucks for everyone else. But like I said, I want to know how you guys thought about, or how you guys felt about the ending and what you thought about some of the other little moments that were not as conventional as you would probably see in most other movies. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.